All right, today we're going to get into a real crypto head scratcher, a mystery that left a lot of people wondering what just happened. I mean, seriously, in 2025, everything was lining up for a massive altcoin season. All the signals were there. And then, poof, nothing. So what on earth went wrong? Let's play detective and piece together the clues. Okay, first things first. Let's set the scene. Because to really get what went wrong, you got to understand just how sky-high the expectations were. We're not talking about just some hopeful posts on social media. No, this was a serious, widespread belief, and it was even backed by data. The consensus was, it was rock solid. Everybody was singing the same tune, from the big shot analysts all the way down to everyday investors. The story was supposed to go like this. Bitcoin has its big run, and then, whoosh, a tidal wave of cash floods into the altcoin market. We were all waiting for this legendary alt season to kick off. And look, we've got the receipts to prove it. The alt season index. This is a key indicator that basically takes the market's temperature. It shot up to its highest point of the year. All signs were go. The market was totally primed and ready. So, with all this crazy optimism, where did the plot twist come from? Let's start digging into the evidence. First up, clue number 1. All right. To figure out why the altcoin rocket stayed on the launch pad, we gotta zoom out. Forget the crypto charts for a second and look at the bigger picture, the global economy. There was this one policy, kind of working in the background, that was basically turning off the money faucet for the entire financial system. It's called quantitative tightening, or QT for short. And what is that? Well, in super simple terms, it's when the central bank literally starts sucking money out of the economy. And when that happens, capital gets scarce. It gets more expensive to borrow and invest, and that has a huge knock-on effect, especially for things that are considered higher risk, like, you guessed it, altcoins. Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. This wasn't some new out-of-the-blue thing. An analyst named Benjamin Cowan pointed out something fascinating. The 2025 cycle looked almost like a carbon copy of the 2019 cycle. And guess what was happening in 2019? Yup, QT was active then too. In both situations, you had the same pattern. Bitcoin does great, its dominance goes up, but the altcoins, they just bleed out against Bitcoin. The big money never rotated out of Bitcoin and into alts. It was literally history repeating itself.
So, okay, money's tight across the board, but some new capital was still coming into crypto. So where was it all going? That brings us to clue number 2, what I like to call the Bitcoin magnet.
You see, the big headline for 2025, the story everyone was talking about, wasn't altcoins. It was all about the big players, the institutional money finally getting into crypto. And they came in through one very specific, very shiny new door, the US spot Bitcoin ETFs. As this quote here makes clear, this wasn't just a small deal. It was a total game changer for Bitcoin. And this chart, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? All that new money flooding in from Wall Street and traditional finance, it had one clear favorite. Just look at those inflows. We're talking over $1.2 trillion, with most of it funneled straight into Bitcoin. It completely dwarfed what Ethereum got and left, well, basically crumbs for the rest of the altcoin market. So the faucet was on, for sure, but the hose was pointed at one single target, Bitcoin. Our last piece of the puzzle is all about regulation. And here, we've got a tale of two continents, really. We've got two totally different approaches that led to completely different results, and ultimately, it's what stopped a big global rally in its tracks. Over in the US, which is the biggest market by far, things got murky. The SEC basically created this fog of uncertainty with its strategy, and when there aren't clear rules of the road, what do investors do? They play it safe. They didn't want to wander too far from the one asset that had a clear stamp of approval, Bitcoin, thanks to those new ETFs. And that hesitation, it slammed the brakes on the kind of speculation you need for a broad market rally. But now flip over to Europe. What a difference, right? They rolled out these really clear, comprehensive regulations called MiCA, and the effect was huge. But here's the key. It didn't spark a big, broad alt season. Instead, you saw this targeted, explosive growth in various specific assets that were compliant with the new rules, like Euro stablecoins. So what does that tell us? It proves that clarity from regulators absolutely fuels growth. But because that clarity was missing in the US, it stopped a global boom from ever happening. So there you have it. When you lay out all the clues, the picture becomes crystal clear. The alt season of 2025 wasn't taken out by one single thing. Not. It was a perfect storm of three really powerful forces all hitting at the same time. Let's recap. 1, you had the macro pressure from QT, which made everyone play it safe and stick with Bitcoin. 2, you had the Bitcoin magnet, with all that new institutional cash getting hoovered up by the ETFs. And 3, you had the regulatory maze in the US that just scared everyone away from taking risks. Put them all together, and you've got a recipe for a fizzled-out alt season.
But hold on. Just when we think we've closed the case, the story takes a turn. Because while all the traders were sitting around waiting for a speculative party that never started, something else was happening. A much quieter, but maybe much more important, kind of season was starting to bloom all around the world.
And this is the twist, right here in the data. While all that speculative energy just kind of fizzled out, real-world use, actual adoption, was absolutely booming. We're talking about places like the Asia-Pacific and Latin America seeing insane growth. And people there weren't using crypto to get rich quick. No, they were using it for real-life stuff, sending money home, protecting their savings from inflation, making everyday payments. It's a totally different story. And that leaves us with one last big question, a really fascinating one. Maybe the alt season everyone was waiting for, the big speculative one, never showed up because the market itself is, well, growing up. Maybe we're moving past the crazy hype cycles and into a new era of actual global utility. So did alt season fail, or did the crypto market just mature? Now, that's something to chew on. Thanks for joining me on this one.